Our mission is to simply control the amount of the sun's energy humanity has access to. Is that a Freudian slip? This is a problem that's already been solved. It's like an objective marker that's saying drop bombs here. It sounds fake, it sounds like sci-fi logic, yet it's true. And with 21st century technology, frankly, it's much closer to the realm of possibility than to sci-fi. A California startup founded in 2021 called Reflect Orbital wants to reflect sunlight back to Earth at night and charge a metric butt ton of money to do it. The sun's energy, limitless and clean in theory. What could go wrong? Now you might be wondering, gee Kat, how would they ever do this? I mean, it's not like they're just gonna send tens of thousands of giant remotely controllable space mirrors into the Earth's orbit, right?
Right?
That's exactly what they're working on doing.
Gloomy outside and you'd rather feel a sunny day? Well, now you can order sunlight on demand. Think of it as Uber Eats, but for the sun. Are you serious? I'm dead serious. As a California startup, Reflect Orbital, it wants to bring sunlight to you even after dark. Using satellites equipped with ultra-reflective mirrors, they bounce sunlight from space to anywhere on Earth. Just open the app, pick your spot, and let the sun shine literally in. With Reflect Orbital, the sun never has to set on your plans. Are you serious?
Now, they want to put these mirrors approximately 400 miles into the Earth's lower orbit, and for the first test, they want a mirror that is 60 foot wide, but they're currently planning for some of the larger mirrors to be approximately 180 foot wide, and by 2035, they want 50,000 of these space mirrors in Earth's orbit, just reflecting sun all over the place at night. It's a cool concept, but let's see, what's the practical application? What's the problem they're trying to solve here? Alright, let's go to their website and see what they have to say. What's possible with a spot of sunlight? Energy. So they want to power solar panels at night. In theory, that sounds like it could be a good thing. Emergency response. Okay, I can see how that could be useful. Like during Hurricane Helene in the Carolinas. Industrial. Yes, because the only thing preventing people from working a 24-hour workday is light. Agriculture, certainly. I'm sure plants don't need the light-dark cycle at all to grow properly. Civilization. Replace street lights and reduce light pollution to enhance urban life. Defense. I'm sure the military could make use of having sunlight at night all the time. It certainly wouldn't let the enemy know your location at all. That's fine. An experience. Unforgettable nighttime with sunlight experiences at night for events in public spaces. Okay, so I personally think the only one that makes sense and would be a good use for this technology is emergency response, because during a disaster, sometimes the roads and bridges are going to be inaccessible. You're not going to be able to bring in mobile lights. And I think having light at night would make emergency search and rescue operations more effective. So I'll give them that. I think this makes sense for emergency response. But everything else, if you just scratch the surface a little bit and think about it, it doesn't make any sense, okay? It just doesn't. So let's think about it. Let's start with industrial. For starters, I have to put aside my disdain for night shift work, mainly because my boyfriend used to work the night shift, and I firsthand got to watch how it destroyed his sleep schedule and how it starts to take a physical toll on a person after a period of time. But there are men out there who want to work the night shift, make that extra night shift pay. Respect for that. So these boys need some light to be able to safely do their work. I get that. But this is a problem that's already been solved. It's called solar portable light towers. They come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and qualities, with how big of an area they can light up, how bright they can make it. They're solar powered, so you can charge them during the day and not need any electricity to light the work area at night. And we've been using this technology as humanity for decades. So the only way Reflect Orbital could offer additional value is if they can make their service cheaper over a period of time than buying or renting these light towers. And we're going to get into the cost of Reflect Orbital service shortly. Then we have civilizational use. Replace street lights, reduce light pollution. Sounds great, but I have one question. You know, I'm trying to sleep at night. I don't really particularly want light coming through my window and disrupting my sleep, my circadian rhythm at night. So how small of an area can Reflect Orbital light up with their service? On their website, it says it's quite precise. But how precise? According to their website, a minimum of 5 kilometers or 3-mile wide diameter of an area precise, which is not really precise. Certainly in the context of replacing streetlights. And you're talking about light pollution. Well, at least streetlights are closer to the ground in comparison to space mirrors reflecting light from 400 miles up in the air to the ground. Now you got a beam of light from that high up going to the ground. That seems like more light pollution to me, if we're not only thinking about the X and Z axis, but also add the Y axis in there. If you enjoy digging through the public catacombs we call the internet, please consider subscribing. And now back to the video. And again, how much is this going to cost to launch and maintain 50,000 space mirror satellites in the Earth's orbit, as opposed to the cost of running streetlights? Because at the end of the day, if the government is paying for it, really, I'm paying for it. You're paying for it. We are paying for it with our taxes. And for defense, I'm sure there are circumstances in which this would be a good idea. But if we're talking about critical operations, now you're reduced to operations only where it doesn't matter at all whether the enemy knows where your operational base is or not. I mean, it's gonna be like a beam of light in a video game pointing you to your objective, right? So the enemy is gonna be like, that's new. I wonder if that's where my opponents are. It's like an objective marker that's saying drop bombs here, right here. Unforgettable nighttime experiences. I'm not sure if it's still a nighttime experience if you got this bright light in the sky beaming down into the experience area, but that put aside, again, is this not something we can achieve by renting portable light towers? Is sending 50,000 space mirror satellites into orbit going to amount to a cheaper service than renting portable light towers? How about energy? After all, the co-founder and CEO of Reflect Orbital, Ben Nowak, told New York Times that Reflect Orbital satellites could be a way to reduce the burning of fossil fuels, thus slowing down climate change. Until you do the math, which an astronomer from an Australian university did. According to Michael Brown, this astronomer, the reflected light from a single satellite mirror would result in the strength of light hitting the solar panels to be 1 out of 140,000 the strength of the midday sun. He added, with even 180-foot wide mirrors, you'd still need 3,000 satellite mirrors just to achieve 20% of the midday sun at a single location. Dr. Brown adds, with 87,000 satellites, at best, you can only provide 20% of midday sunlight to 27 different locations. And with solar power, the strength of the sunlight, or the number of photons hitting the solar panels, determines how much energy you make. So at best, Reflect Orbital's Earth-saving energy production strategy is incredibly inefficient. And again, what's the cost going to be? What about agriculture? Farming, food. Well, so it turns out, unlimited sunlight does not equal unlimited growth for plants. There's this thing called photosynthesis saturation. There is a certain amount of light plants want, need, and actually can utilize and benefit from within a day, and anything more than that not only is pretty much useless, but can in fact harm them. When you buy a plant at a nursery, you'll see some have tags that say full sunlight, and what full sunlight usually means is 6 to 8 hours a day at a minimum. But after a certain point, after passing the point of photosynthesis saturation, more light can actually result in excess energy and damage to the photosynthetic cells, resulting in photoinhibition, ultimately damaging and slowing down the growth of the plant. Gee, I wonder why farmland is in these huge swaths of open land that has access to the sun from the moment it rises to the moment it sets. I wonder why we don't put farmland in the middle of forests with all that shade or in the middle of cities with tall buildings. Could it be that Mother Nature already kind of figured this out over millions of years of evolution, and us playing God to pad some pockets isn't gonna be an improvement?
What the hell is this? Tastes like Gatorade.
Is that Brondo stuff?
They're watering crops with a sports drink?
Rondo the Thirst Mutilator had come to replace water virtually everywhere.
If an idiot like me can poke this many holes in their sales pitch, it almost feels like Reflect Orbital's service is a solution looking for a problem. And if you look at a web archive snap of Reflect Orbital's website from early 2023, you'll find nearly all energy on Earth comes from the sun. Our mission is to simply control the amount of the sun's energy humanity has access to. Is that a Freudian slip? I mean, maybe they're just nerds who have no idea what words mean and how to communicate with people, but that does not instill trust. They could have said increase, augment, multiply, but no, the word they chose was control. At the end of the day, this comes down to the bottom line. How much does it cost? Because if it is the cheaper option, it is a more viable option.
You just hit a button and you can get some light from space. And it's not very expensive. It's a couple $1,000s an hour and that's about it.
He has high hopes for that future fleet to help with things like nighttime emergency rescues and eventually to turn a profit, charge $5,000 an hour to get a single mirror fanned out and pointed at the customer's target.
You'll also be able to, light up farms, grow plants, light up solar farms, produce clean electricity.
$5,000 an hour for one mirror. Just one. And if we recall Dr. Brown, the Australian astronomer's calculations, it would require 3,000 satellites pointing to the same location to generate 1/5 of the sun's midday strength, and one satellite for 1 hour costs $5,000. Oh, but wait, according to what Mr. Novak, the CEO we just heard from, said to New York Times in their article, they would charge $5,000 an hour per satellite if a customer signed an annual contract committing to 1,000 hours a year. Lighting for one-time events and emergencies, which might require numerous satellites and more effort to coordinate, would be more expensive. Well, no shit. If one satellite, even a 180-foot one, can only provide the light of 1/140,000th the strength of the midday sun, then one satellite is not going to be good for anything. Let's do some quick math here. All right, we got a farm. There's an area that's 3 miles wide that's shaded out a bit. We want to provide the plants there with 1/5 of the midday sun for 1 extra hour a day. So let's see, $5,000, move the 3 zeros over, multiply by 3. That's $15 million for 1 hour for 1/5 of the midday sun. I'm sorry, but this doesn't even make sense for industrial farms. Forget family farms and small farms or even medium farms. Absolutely no way. So quick Google math here. 2024 to 2025, 95% of all farms in America are family farms. 85% of all farms in America are small family farms. Small family farms are defined by revenue that is less than $350,000 a year. Revenue, not profit. And large family farms are defined by a revenue more than $1 million a year. Again, revenue, not profit. And this guy expects any farm to pay $15 million for 1 hour, one time of 1/5 midday sunlight on a 3-mile diameter area on their farm. I don't think even industrial farms are stupid enough to fall for this. I mean, they might have the money, but they sure as shit know they're not gonna make a return on their investment. They're not gonna improve yield so much to justify $15 million for 1 hour. And frankly, I am highly suspicious that this whole setup is going to generate enough solar power to justify $15 million for 1 hour either. Again, outside of search and rescue, there is no legitimate use case for this. I feel like this is a scam, like they're trying to scam investors or something. I do have to wonder if this is another Theranos. Speaking of investors, Reflect Orbital got its first $6 million in seed funding from the venture capital private equity company called Sequoia, better known as the investors of Klarna, DoorDash, Airbnb, all that awesome stuff. And they got their next round of funding for $28 million from Lux Capital. If we go to Lux's website, we see that they turned sci-fi into sci-fac, and their mission is that they believe before others understand. Yeah, they're not worrying about the understanding part. They just have blind faith, and that's sufficient for Lux Capital. I had a whole section planned for the circadian rhythm and the problems this is going to cause for animals and ecosystems and the environment. But at this point, the more I think about it, the more I realize this company's service does not have any merit to stand on as a proper business model to make money from. At that price range, they're not providing value to their customers, so I don't think we even need to go into the details of the potential problems. Just keep in mind, almost everything on this planet has evolved to coexist and work with the 24-hour day-night cycle, and messing with that is most likely going to cause some serious problems. That article we were reading earlier even goes into how SpaceX voluntarily worked on making their satellites less reflective to reduce the light pollution it's going to cause, to reduce the impact it's going to cause on animals and plants and people and insects and all that. But the problem with Reflect Orbital, as you can perhaps gather from its name, is the whole point is to reflect light. So they can't do that. For them, the more they reflect, the better, but the reflection is the problem here. The article also adds, while Reflect Orbital's service does not seem very practical for Earth, it could actually have practical applications on the moon for a lunar outpost to lengthen the 2-week nights and provide a usable energy source. So perhaps Ben Novak is just way ahead of his time. And that's fine, but then don't misrepresent your product or service. Don't say, oh, it's gonna make getting solar power cheaper or easier, or increase the yield of plants and farmland, because that's not the case. At least not in any practical business savvy sense of the case. And I got one more tip for Ben Novak, the CEO and founder of Reflect Orbital. Assuming this company doesn't exist to scam investors out of money, this is his YouTube. It looks great. He is building stuff. It's very science and engineering focused. He's doing some really cool stuff. This is great. Keep doing this. But this is his public Instagram, and beyond the first few pictures, just a few years ago, start looking more like a frat boy, someone who just kind of wants to party and mess around, and it's just not very serious at all. It does not give trust that you're someone who's going to not only run this company properly, but make the right decisions if your product or service is potentially having negative impacts and side effects on the rest of us. So make this shit private or clean it up and try to appear more like the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company that's trying to send thousands of space mirror satellites into Earth's orbit. All right, well, with that said, this simply, as it stands, as one of those ideas that's more sensical in theory than in practice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.